Professor Chomsky, it's a real privilege to be able to hear you talk, and I'd just like to thank you for sort of shaping and continuing to shape the way that I view the world. My question relates to what you've written and spoken about quite extensively, the two dominant threats that pose to humans' survival, climate change and nuclear war. I was just wondering to what extent you've considered a third possibility, which perhaps is maybe not quite so obvious, the threat of digital companies, companies mainly working in places like Silicon Valley, working quite secretively on stuff like the singularity theorem and the Internet of Things, which are purported to create a kind of super intelligence that will render humanity fairly obsolete. I was just wondering what your thoughts were on that, and whether in fact it's a bad thing at all.
Well, so what about the development of supercomputers that will be more intelligent than humans, and singularity, you know, they'll take over everything and will be superfluous and so on. Actually, I've been listening to I've been at MIT for 60 years, since 1950, and I've been listening to this for 60 years. The line has always been, in 6 months, we will have computers which will do X, Y, and Z. We don't have them. There's a famous paper by Alan Turing called How to Make Machines Think, or some title like that. A short paper, 8 pages, around 1950. It's the basis for all of this work on what's called the Turing test, trying to develop machines which will think. You know, a machine that'll defeat a grandmaster in chess, you know, will win a prize in a television program and so on. All of this work, and you can win $100,000 if you develop what they call a machine. A machine means a program. That's not the machine. If you develop a program that will pass the so-called Turing test, you know, fool a human and fool a jury of humans into thinking it's a person, not a machine. All of this work overlooks a brief sentence in Turing's paper, namely, the questions whether machines think is too meaningless to deserve discussion. Okay? He didn't bother explaining it, but it's pretty obvious. I mean, you can develop what, again, it's kind of sexy to talk about a machine, but remember, a machine is just like, in itself, it's kind of like a paperweight, doesn't do anything. It's the program that's doing something. And the program is just some kind of theory, you know, complicated theory. So you can develop theories that will do specific tasks. Like it was obvious in 1950 that if you put enough time and energy into it, you could develop a program that would win a chess game against a grandmaster. How? By getting 100 grandmasters to sit around for years and years, figuring out what to do in all possible circumstances and so on and so forth, and program it. And it'll do better than a grandmaster who has a half an hour to think of the next move. Okay, it's completely uninteresting. Intellectually, zero interest. It's good for IBM. They sell a lot of computers that way. But it has no intellectual interest. The same is true of winning in a quiz show. You know, you toss a lot of data into the machine, it'll do better than a person. But getting a machine to do a program, again, to do anything that's at all like the creative activities that every 4-year-old child can carry out, that's quite different. And I don't think we have any grasp even on how to go ahead to do that. So I think one can have a fair degree of skepticism about the PR on super intelligent machines and singularity and so on.